Over the weekend, we lost our beloved host, Alex Trebek. This is an enormous loss for our staff and crew, for his family, and for his millions of fans.
And, oh, this is so exciting. All the way from Wakanda is T'Challa.
Greetings, Daniel. I am a big fan of this program.
I'm fine. Just doing another film that's gonna make loads of money. Probably a lot more money than any film you've ever made.
I'm Ramero.
And I'm Chris.
And we're the non-experts.
We're not therapists.
Or lawyers.
Or firefighters.
We don't have any licenses or degrees.
So join us as we talk about news and pop culture and say whatever we want.
Because we're the non-experts.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
That's the only way I know how to start this. So, yeah, you guys might notice that Ramero's not here this week. He's taking a bit of a break. Just, life happens. Got stuff piled up, which I totally understand. But lucky for me and for the show, we have a backup host here. So go ahead and if you want to introduce yourself.
My name's Skylar. I have no real credentials other than going to school.
Works for me. Yeah, me and Skylar are good friends, and I feel like, he'll be a good replacement this week for Ramero. Definitely has some opinions on things, and
Oh, yeah.
I might be presumptuous, but I'm not an expert in anything, so.
No, not at all. No. Oh my God, no.
Perfect. Well, I did want to start just, kind of as a mention, which we usually always try to do whenever a celebrity dies. But Alex Trebek, unfortunately, has died of pancreatic cancer. And it's kind of an interesting situation because we have before talked about him on the show and sort of somewhat followed his journey through, his treatments and that kind of thing. So it is sad to see, not only someone that we've been following, but, an icon of daytime game show TV,
Oh my gosh, yeah, very, very sad. I know it was I feel like that was something that everyone kind of presumes like parents and grandparents watch, but
right.
I remember I was my freshman year. I'd watch it with all my friends in the dorm. We would sit around and
right.
see who could guess, right, or just see how many answers we had, right. Of course, I didn't know most of them,
right.
So non-expert.
Yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way, and unfortunately, it is kind of one of those things where me and Ramero mentioned this before, but it's almost like an RGB kind of situation where you're like, okay, we kind of knew it was coming, it's still sad, but we were kind of prepared for it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did want to just mention that and talk about that. So. In other news, I do have a topic that actually this was the same day they announced the election results, which we can get into that later. But so Johnny Depp has been fired from Warner Brothers because of certain allegations, which I have certain feelings about it because the last thing I knew about it was that it was all Amber Heard and her framing him for this, but it was really all her. So I was confused when I saw that he was fired.
Well, I don't know if so there's what is all based off of was these recordings that they had recently, some leak maybe, I'm not really sure. I actually found those recordings the other day, and she admits to starting the physical bites actually outright. She's
Wow.
yes, I am starting the fight. It's in some ways Depp is actually calm and collected. They are arguing, but a lot of times she's being kind of verbally abusive.
Right.
Which is she's making fun of him, kind of belittling him in a lot of senses, which I thought is very weird because that came out in February, I thought. I'm pretty sure.
Right, yeah. This isn't news.
No.
Everyone's been hearing about it, but
Yeah.
it's just why is he getting fired when, like, why isn't, because people, the whole internet basically wants Amber Heard to get fired from Aquaman 2.
Oh yeah, everyone
And
does.
because, apparently she's the one to blame here. And so, I don't know. And it's funny because the whole internet is basically on Johnny Depp's side. And it's basically like, this was like completely unjust and, uncalled for. So,
It's one of those things where I don't know, because why it came up was because it's like the UK courts, like it was like he was ruled as a wife beater.
Yeah.
Which seems very weird because of the recordings. The same side though, really they were married for how many years? There could be a lot more to it.
Yeah.
At the same point, but I mean, unfortunately, Hollywood is just politics at this point. Where if you have any kind of allegations, especially something of beating your wife,
Right.
that's just pretty serious.
Yeah.
And no one likes to take that chance. I mean, even like the other day, who was it? The Witches movie that came out recently. She got I forget who was the star.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
She got a ton of flack from a lot of disability like organizations because of how they portrayed like people with because she only had like 2 fingers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So little things like oh my gosh, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, yeah, she submitted an apology online about
Wow.
it because she portrayed as very, I don't know what like misquote or anything,
Right,
it was like
yeah.
demonic or like evil person.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole like left hand, like writing with your left hand's like devil,
Right.
and
Yeah.
stuff. So I mean, movies are politics at this point,
Right.
because the stars are what makes the money.
Right.
So
From what I understand, I never watched the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Really?
Like, I guess, I'm not that into Harry Potter. Like, I know enough about it. I've never really been like a huge Harry Potter fan. But from what I understand, listen, yes.
what do you mean? A Harry Potter fan?
It was nothing that I really got into. And I'm sure if I took the time to actually read the books and watch the movies, then I would probably be more interested in it. But it was just that, in middle, and not even middle school, but elementary school, there's always a certain book series that, this group of kids liked, this group of kids liked. And then,
Yeah.
and so I was never the Harry Potter. I was more like Series of Unfortunate Events, group. Maybe slightly Narnia, although I never really finished the Narnia books. But yeah, I was just never Harry Potter. So, but from what I understand, this past Fantastic Beasts movie really wasn't that good. That's what people were saying.
I've seen both of them. I would say they're enjoyable, but you have to like the universe of Harry Potter. It's kind of like, in my opinion, kind of like the Marvel movies. We just gotta like superheroes, and you gotta like magic and all that stuff. And so some of them were kind of like the Fantastic Beasts weren't anything to. You're not missing anything,
Right?
Really. to be honest, Johnny Depp was a little weird as Grindelwald. I saw his character and I was just like, this is a weird looking man. And it wasn't even kind of I guess that was what they were going for, but it was nothing to be it's nothing to be upset about that you're missing.
Right.
And it's upset that someone's if he is innocent, is upset in his career, especially a very great career, honestly.
Right.
Starting on Nightmare on Elm Street, and and then of course working his way up to so many more things. But yeah, the movies, you're not missing anything. Watch the actual Harry Potter movies though; those are pretty good. But point nostalgia around them for the most part, I think.
So, kind of one of the reasons why I knew you'd be a good replacement host this week is that you also have a love and affection for the Marvel movies and pretty much anything Marvel related, which, me and Ramero, we talk about that kind of stuff all the time. But this was something I found interesting, that it's Marvel related, but it's it's a little bit different, but I'll explain. So basically, there was a Black Panther comic book that was signed by Chadwick Boseman before he died and Stan Lee that went up for auction. It doesn't have an exact like total for how much it went up to because it was very private. But the starting bid was $8,000 for it, which is more money than I think I would ever be able to think about having.
I'm surprised it was that
low.
Honestly, I expected more. Yeah,
I kind of expected more too. Yeah. It was a rare edition of Black Panther #1, and it was signed by Chadwick Boseman and Stan Lee. Let's see. Yep, starting bid of $8,000. It was rated a 9.8 on the CGC signature series, which verifies that it was signed by both of them and it wasn't plagiarized or anything like that or counterfeit. And the director of Black Panther also signed the book as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I can't imagine that, honestly. I mean, Stan Lee signing it alone is, amazing. Because it's been like 2 years.
For Stan Lee, it's been about 2
years. Yeah. I don't know. Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman.
It was
passing
recent.
away as well. Yeah. That was over the summer, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's Black Panther. I have a few opinions about the movie itself. I don't think it did the comics justice by any means.
Right.
The comics are some of the best, I think, though. A few I have like read, and I like a big nerd, like back in high when I always went on like the comic book like Wikipedias and stuff.
Yeah.
And Black Panther was a fantastic character, so I can only imagine. I just can't imagine it's only 8,000 though.
Well, that's where it started. That's not necessarily how much it ended up being.
Okay.
But yeah,
okay.
So basically they were like, we're going to start this auction at $8,000. And I have a feeling that a lot of people who were in attendance were like, yes, I'm going to raise that.
$8,000 is a pocket change at that point.
Exactly, right.
I think for the people who are wanting it.
Yeah. What makes this comic interesting, though, it was a Black Panther #1, but it was a Middle East Comic-Con version of it, so the cover was a little bit different.
Okay.
It had Stan Lee and Black Panther back to back, pretty much on the cover, and Stan Lee's giving a thumbs up. I have a picture of it, but I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you. I'm sure you could look it up, but I'll have it on screen for the video podcast here. But what's also interesting about the signature is that Chadwick Boseman wrote 42 next to his signature, which people were saying is a nod to him playing Jackie Robinson in the 42 movie, which I think is cool. And I mean, you kind of already said it. You have Stan Lee and Chadwick Boseman, both who are deceased, which makes it exponentially more valuable. But also the fact that the director signed it too. But I mean, that's just such an interesting thing. Things like that come up for auction are just so interesting. Like who had this? You know what I mean? Like who's had this whole time? And it's
exactly.
Just, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of things too. I think when I've heard of comic books like that being sold, usually like a charity thing. With it as well, usually. But now in this case, this is almost like a collector's item. A very expensive collector's item. Right. Especially with the director on there as well. Just because Black Panther was such a, let alone it being a Marvel movie, it had a very big statement, for the African American community and the diversity among film sets. Yeah. So I starting bid I can see where it starts at 8,000. We'll probably go much more. Probably paying for my college and plus some.
All right, so recently Xbox and PlayStation have released their new machines, although I think Xbox just released, although they both kind of put them out at the same time.
I think they're both November 12th.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay. I think there's like a review copy, like not review copies, but review.
Like media.
Yeah. They're getting their stuff early, is what from what I understand.
Okay, so they're coming, And, you know, it's always kind of been a battle between PlayStation, Xbox, and but then, of course, you know, PC gamers are also like very adamant about
this
their...
is a very different console war, though, I think.
Right.
Especially from the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
If you really when PS4 and Xbox One came out.
Right.
This is much more. Well, I remember when that happened. Everyone's like, "You're getting an Xbox One? Like, why? Are you stupid?"
Yeah.
Because it was like $500, and everyone's like, "But why?" And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of like.
Right.
But before that, though, PS3 did that when they were like, "It's Blu-ray and this and that," and you could they would say like something like a router too. I don't really know exactly, but that was also $500.
Yeah.
This time, though, you have similar prices, fairly similar output as well within like graphics wise. But now you're looking at it's the games and the people who are on there. Like now it's all about everyone's on Xbox side. One, you have the streaming, the Xbox Game Pass, which is amazing.
Right.
I have it for my PC and it's phenomenal. I pay like $5 a month and have like the hundreds of games I can play at any point. But PlayStation's like, well, we have PS Now, which I also have. It's okay. It's not quite where Xbox Game Pass is. So it's a little bit different one. I don't know, but you're also looking at like their ray tracing, 8K graphics, and like, or no, not 8K. 8K possibly. I think Xbox Series X said something about 8K. Maybe. 120 frames a second, super fast loading times. At this point, they're giving you a PC.
Right.
They're just trying, right. Like, I would say you're not going to be able to get that same output if you build a PC at that price point.
Right.
But they're really just trying to close the gap, I guess, between your PC master race.
Yeah. I find it very, I mean, and it makes sense, and I understand why they're doing this, but I find it so interesting that they are putting out these two different versions where one has the disk drive and one is just completely digital, because I'm like on that weird fence of like, oh, like I could understand, you know, why just completely digital, you know, makes sense. But like I have games on discs and and stuff that I'm like, oh, but I want to, you know, be able to keep that, and it's such a weird, you know, I'm not going to get one. I don't need one. I don't play enough to really warrant. Like I just bought a PS4 in March after, you know, not having had a game console for a year. So
Forest.
Exactly. And so I'm not going to buy one, but like if I was, you know, I would be so conflicted as to being like, you know, well, which one, you know, is it worth the more money to have the disc drive, or do I save, you know, a little bit of money just for digital?
It's weird because I mean, even in the same sense, like I don't need a PS5. I have a PS4 Pro already. I built a PC, you know, 1660 Ti. Like I can run most games without really any problem. But I think the thing comes down to is exclusives. People who just like games. Yeah. For instance, this new Spider-Man game coming out. Yeah. Like the talks of a new God of War. The new Ratchet and Clank that's coming out on it too. They're really pushing a lot of these older games coming back. Yeah. And the nostalgia is kind of getting to me. Not gonna lie, the last Spider-Man game was amazing. It was so much fun. I had no life when it came out. Yeah. At the same time, though, I should not get one, and I don't need it. I don't want to get one. I'm not spending $400 on a console.
Right.
I'll never play.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like, you know, I just bought this PS4. I don't play it enough to really warrant needing, you know, something else. It's just kind of a thing where it's like, it'd be nice to have, you know.
Well, when you talk about these graphics and these, it's the first thing I got to think of was like, I don't even believe 4K is a standard thing in most households.
Right.
Like that's still taking so long to get there because everyone's. Yes, you see brighter color or more vibrant colors, and there is a difference, yes, but most people don't see a lot of it or care, I would say. Right. And 120 frames is you gotta have a 120 hertz, monitor with it. Your TVs are not gonna have that.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not gonna have it. So at the same time, these consoles seem much more like something of like you have to be a gamer.
Yeah.
While the last couple consoles have been a little bit more consumer friendly or like non-gamer friendly, I would say. People just buy it to, have like something to play YouTube off of, Netflix, watch movies, and then you play like multiplayer games with family and friends on the side, whatever, Fortnite. And so this seems like a commitment of like you are a gamer if you have a PS5 or Xbox Series X, and but I think back to the two different versions. It's a little sketchy that their Xbox version is like significantly like not really or because is the Series S already come out? Is that already a thing already out?
You're
wrong person. I don't know. I'm not an Xbox person. Like, I'm not really into games anymore. There's too much of a commitment. Like, they're making games that like you put 100 hours into this. I'm like, 100 hours,
right?
What?
Where am I going to find those 100 hours?
Where's that at? Like, you all don't have like a job, and like you have to. I gotta like work every day. I got school on top of that, and by the time I get home, they're like, "Well, I'm gonna play some video games." I'm like, "No, I'm going to bed."
Exactly. Yeah.
Like my pillow's calling my.
Right.
And like, I don't have time for that. At the same point though, the gaming community I've flourished since quarantine.
Oh, definitely.
Everyone's playing a ton of games, and there's new games coming out, like Nintendo. They're like remastering, or not remastering, like re-releasing Super Mario Galaxy, and a lot of the other games too, but only for like a limited time, I think.
Yeah.
Just stupid. Like it's digital. Not gonna run out. You're just gonna keep getting more money. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Consoles seem weird. Like I don't see a console after this generation. Personally, it would seem kind of odd.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I don't see anything in the future being worth like 16K, like 240 frames a second. Like you can see God. Like why?
Yeah. Makes
and
no
then
sense.
they're going to start charging $1,000 because at that point you're going to have to be running a PC to get any better than that.
So, Skylar, every week on Non-Experts Podcast, we usually we flip-flop between these two segments. We used to do both, but then it turned out it was just way too long of a show. So we decided to just go with one or the other, depending on which one we felt was appropriate. So this week we're doing a segment called Who Asked for This?, where we basically find a topic and that makes us really, think, who asked for this? And this one, I think, really fits the bill because I almost said this out loud when I read this, which is funny because the headline almost deceives you a little bit, but I'll just read the headline and then we'll get into it. So the headline is Cher voices her own bobblehead in a new animated Bobbleheads movie, which I think I said this earlier, which is kind of burying the lead here because it's like, there's a Bobbleheads movie? What are you talking about?
They're trying to like soften the blow by saying
exactly.
Cher,
Yeah, like Cher. Exactly. So basically, Cher, in this, there's a trailer for this, but she comes down these stairs in a puff of smoke and disco ball, blah blah blah, and she basically is talking to these other bobbleheads. So when these bobbleheads human goes AWOL, does that sound familiar? Toy Story? They must defend their home from unexpected guests to uninvited intruders who hope to swap a new baseball player bobblehead for a value. I've already lost interest. I'm pretty much done at that point. But they have a bit of a I guess the nice way to say it is sort of a D-list cast. They have Brenda Song, which is Disney Channel Sweet Life, Zack and Cody. They have Julian Sands, which I have no idea who that is. Warlock, apparently, is what he's from. I don't know. They have Carrie Payton from The Walking Dead. And then Luke Wilson and Jennifer Coolidge, along with a couple of other, low-profile people. But that doesn't sound like a very strong cast. Kind of sounds like they asked bigger people to be in it, and they said no.
Yeah.
So these are kind of the leftovers, unfortunately.
Did you say Julian Sands?
Julian Sands. Doesn't
Yeah.
ring a bell.
He was in Arachnophobia, Warlock. But for the most part, it looks like he had a bigger career in the 80s and 90s.
Gotcha. Interesting.
With some stuff in the 2000s, but definitely nothing that you were missing by any means. All of it just by the titles and the artwork, or like the covers, are very much D-list.
Yeah.
At this point.
Didn't really break through in the industry, did we, Julian Sands? Anyway, but the other interesting thing that I think we discovered with this was that it is directed by, I would say, an established gentleman in the Disney world, Kirk Wise, who has directed Beauty and the Beast, the original from the 90s, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and he was the ADR director for the English dub of Spirited Away. So it almost doesn't make sense that he's adding this to his filmography.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're kind of pushing this onto him. Like, he has a lot of
that too.
good movies under his belt, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I saw part of the part of this trailer, and even like I said, like the animation seems very lower budget for Disney film.
Yeah.
And especially how they market it too. It's just like so like 2000s terrible. Like, you saw this on a trailer once on some random movie. You're like, oh yeah, did that movie ever come out? Like, I think it did. And you see it like in the $5 bucket bin,
right,
a year or two later. Like, oh wow, I didn't realize this came out. I don't see why they are making this. Even the story sounds just like, well, he was going to replace the bobblehead with another bobblehead? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
It's like combining like Toy Story with, you remember that Over the Hedge movie? It's like it's like combining these like two things together, and it almost sounds like a ripoff of the Trolls movie, because it's like, we're just gonna take this, like kids toy that nobody cares about and just make it into like this lore, and I'm like, who cares? It is a bobblehead. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How did this get greenlit is my question, but
I think they're just hurting for at this point.
Yeah. They're like, we need ideas. This quarantine is draining all of our creative energy out, which, we can get into this whole thing of like Disney basically remaking all their old movies for no reason, but
Just want more money. That's just about it. Everything's just, now all they have is they pull everything from Marvel now. They have just remakes of everything, and nothing very interesting has been coming out so far. I think most things are, well, not to take that back. I thought they did announce some new movie. It was like something with like it's like some dragon movie, but it was, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Well, what an odd, who, no one was like, okay, first off, how do you think bobbleheads is your choice of creative, your topic? You're like, I'm going to make a movie about bobbleheads. And you're also expect you're going for a younger audience, right?
Right,
yeah. The younger audience is like, that's a weird toy. It was like, it's a bobblehead. A bobble what? No one has bobbleheads anymore.
Right.
It's just,
not only that, but you bring up a very good point about how this is a kid's movie. What kid under the age of, I would say, probably 10, knows who Cher is. Like,
Right?
who
At
can,
that point, you're
that's
just trying to get the parents to spend the money to go watch it.
exactly, yeah. I'd be like, oh, it's got Cher, might as well. Like,
Yeah.
no.
We'll see what she's doing, I guess. But what is? I don't. From my understanding, Cher's music's not something I've ever done a deep dive of. And
Right.
Not my genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still a thing. Do people
Yeah,
still
I mean, she's
wonder
still
who Cher is?
Exactly, yeah. Well, if you do want to catch this movie, in case you're interested, it does have a digital release date of December 8th. It will also be streaming on Netflix, so there you go. Bobbleheads the movie. Again, I don't know your familiarity with the show, but along with a Who Asked for This segment, we also have a segment that I feel like we started doing really early in the podcast and has proven to be probably both of our favorite segments, but it is a Florida segment where we find a nice headline from a Florida story, and as you can imagine, they're always, everyone knows Florida man.
Stuff down there,
exactly.
Man. Crazy stuff.
Exactly. So this one I feel like really just plays into the whole sort of COVID quarantine thing that we got going on, but it's still hilarious to me. So we got, quote, bored Florida man firefighter gets 3-day suspension for breaking quarantine while he was COVID-19 positive. So this guy was basically like, I'm bored, so I'm just going to break quarantine, and so we'll look at the details.
Wow.
So here we go. A Seminole County firefighter received a 3-day suspension without pay for going out on his boat and visiting a friend's house while he was supposed to be under quarantine after testing positive for COVID-19. According to documentation from the fire department, this firefighter, Joseph Piambino, told his bosses he broke quarantine because he was, quote, bored. He was put on disaster leave with pay after calling in on June 20th to report that he was tested positive, but after his diagnosis, he basically was just, I'm bored, so I'm just going to go out on my boat and, go to a friend's house. So basically, he's now suspended without pay. 3-day suspension, which I feel like is a slap on the wrist, not really anything too crazy.
Pandemic.
Right, yeah. But I'm like, I get it. We're bored. Everyone's bored.
Yeah.
Being stuck at home. But I think it's a little selfish.
Yeah, man. I've had to talk to a few people like that. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm just bored. I'm like, you are all bored. But like,
Right. But you know what?
Just stay bored a
You
little
have the wealth
longer,
of the universe in your pocket.
right? Oh my gosh! Like,
The
I'm
entire
just so
universe.
bored. I'm like, you spent like $1,000 on this little
Exactly.
thing that can access it's so much.
Right.
Read a book, watch movies, listen to some music.
Right.
You do something.
Right.
You have any hobbies? Like, was your whole life just work? Like, Lord, I don't understand it.
Yeah. What cracks me up is that this guy is super unapologetic. He's like, well, yeah, I was bored. Yeah.
Well, it's probably one of those guys who probably thought that, COVID's like a, quote unquote
Yeah.
fake,
A hoax, yeah. Which it would be a weird mindset, especially after you were tested positive for it. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, hey, you are sick.
Right.
And he's like,
Nah. Boat.
All I have is there's one thing only I want to do in this world, and it's boat.
It's boat.
It's boat.
Do you mean going out on a boat? No. Boat. That is.
What do you want to do to me, man?
Boat, yeah.
What? Boat. Like, go on a boat, watch boat, race boats, boat.
Just boat.
I just want a boat.
Right. Well, thank you so much for filling in for Ramero, who, for the record, is fine. He's fine. He's just busy this week. That is all. I'm sure people will be like, "Oh, right, yeah, what's really going on?"
Busy.
Yeah.
You know,
But yeah, thanks for filling in and being a great guest host.
Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've had a lot of fun.
Good. Well, I hope that we can get you on and have the three of us here together, because I feel like we'll have just great banter and,
I think that
especially
would be
with...
a wonderful.
Right.
Absolutely. I miss Ramero. I was very sad to not get to to talk to him this time.
Yeah.
Or have some, because I think a lot of these topics were very much Romero topics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.